Joining us now to talk about the importance of today and taking care of the men and women who serve this country are former Chief of the Defense Staff, retired General Tom Lawson, and former Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan. Welcome to both of you. Now, it's difficult to underscore the importance of this day in particular, but as two people who have served in the rank and file and in leadership roles, General Lawson, how important is it for Canadians to pause today and remember this sacrifice?
I think it's a very special thing, Mike. It gives each person a personal opportunity to look back to relatives or ancestors who fought in major wars in the past. For people who think about others who are in uniform right now, or people who have recently retired from life in uniform to consider the loss of various friends that they had. One thing I know for sure is that the men and women who remain in uniform today are heartened by all of these celebrations of remembrance at all of the memorials across Canada.
Mr. Sajjan, I wanted to know what you think about on this particular day when you take that moment to pause and think not only of those who have served before you, but those who served with you as well.
No, it's always a very difficult day on Remembrance Day, and just to add on what Tom was saying, the sacrifice that is made, not just with the people who serve, but the sacrifice of the families who have to go away for a very long time, away from their families. And I think about the families who have lost loved ones on the battlefield. It's a very difficult day for them, and it's they need to know that the whole country is rallying around them to show them support as well.
Yeah, and part of the support that we think of as well is how we support them right now, Mr. Sajjan. There are still some of those issues that we have seen that have been highlighted by the Auditor General in the recent report that was released last month on the military's aging living quarters. How big of a problem do you think it is as the country attempts to rebuild the armed forces when you consider the depth of the aging infrastructure that we're seeing right now, Mr. Sajjan?
And you know what, you raised a very important point. Improving our infrastructure is something that needed to be done. It's something that, when it comes to when you ask our members to live in very rural areas, we need to make sure that they have the right infrastructure, and the significant investment that is being made right now by Prime Minister Carney is going to finish that job. I was just reading some of the budget on defense, and it clearly has significant amount of billions of dollars put aside for infrastructure. And let's not forget also, in addition to where they live, but also looking after the soldiers as well, from increasing their pay, but also some of the relocation allowances, and something that General Lawson knows quite a bit about.
General Lawson, how important is that reinvestment in our forces? We know that the Carney government is trying to spend up to 2%, getting there, and then onwards to 5%. How important, as you see it, as someone who has led the forces, do you see this investment now, not only because we're going to be meeting those NATO targets, but even going beyond that?
Well, critical. I think it, when we go back to the years where I was Chief of Defense and following those when Mr. Sajjan was the minister, we were working on a shoestring budget. Canada was typically taking a defense discount, and we did the best we could. We had a small armed forces, very professional, but we did not have the money to invest in our infrastructure, our bases, our wings, our piers, and our ports. And we're going to have that money now. So that's extremely important, because it will help with the retention of members in uniform and the recruiting of people into the forces, but also the defense of Canada, which becomes more and more important with the geopolitical situation around the world, and more peer competitors putting pressure on Canadians and Canadian friends and NATO. So I think it's critical, and it's coming at a very important time.
Yeah, General Lawson, I wanted to pick up on that. You talked about the geopolitical situation. One of the focuses of the G7 Foreign Affairs Minister meeting in Niagara is going to be on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. How pivotal is it, in your mind, that the ministers emerge from that meeting on the same page?
Well, I think six of the ministers are already on the same page. I think all but the U.S. are quite certain that as they arrive with full support for arming Ukraine with the weapons they need and with the money that they're allowed to put in. But I think six of them will be focusing on the Secretary of State Rubio from the States and asking what is the plan from the United States. I mean, as recently as a few days ago, there was talk about perhaps supplying Tomahawk weaponry, very long range, very accurate weaponry to the Ukrainians. And of course, that would be a game changer. All kinds of bases and ports and oil facilities that are right now out of range would be in range, would put great pressure on Russia. That all fell through, and of course it changed. No, these will not be going to Ukraine. A month ago, there was pressure on Russia to call a ceasefire. Clearly, Putin didn't want that, and there was an American pivot to Ukraine to say accept a ceasefire in place, which of course Ukraine's not interested in. So I think they'll all be looking at Mr. Rubio for the way ahead.
Mr. Sajjan, on that and looking at Mr. Rubio, but also the task for somebody that you spent some time in cabinet with, Anita Anand, and what she has to do to try and get everybody on the same page. As you know, maybe as General Lawson said, there's six already there, but how difficult will that be for your former cabinet colleague to try and make sure that she comes out of this with a consensus on Ukraine?
I mean, obviously, it presents a challenge given the current geopolitical position that the U.S. is currently taking. And I just remind people that imagine what we could have done in the past. So, for example, when we were foreign nations in Ukraine, training the Ukrainian military at that time to prevent an invasion, a further invasion by Russia. Imagine if at that time more European nations that actually had joined the training mission and were inside Ukraine at that time could be prevented. Now, taking from those lessons, obviously that didn't take place, but we potentially could have prevented, and something that Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the EU, has even talked about. So that's the discussion that they need to have now, is that all of them need to be on board to prevent the further escalation of this war. The European nations are involved. The U.S. wanted increased spending by the European allies. They're doing that. So now I think with Minister Anand, she'll be able to talk to the U.S., saying that every other nation has stepped up, are doing what President Trump had asked for, but also at the same time that the U.S. needs to come and support Ukraine at this time of need. Otherwise, it's going to be detrimental for them as well.
Okay, we're going to have to leave the discussion there. Former Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan and former Chief of the Defense Staff General Tom Lawson, thank you both for being here. We appreciate it.